In an interview with Fox News on Wednesday, 25 March, Director of the United States Economic Council, Larry Kudlow, said that the $2.3 trillion recovery package about to be passed through the US Senate would not only just provide direct stimulus to the US economy, this would also allow the Federal Reserve to provide an additional $4 trillion of lending to the US economy. In this issue, we discuss how this additional $4 trillion is created. The reason that the central bank can provide this extra lending lies in the Federal Reserve's emergency authorities given to it by the Federal Reserve Act. When the Fed declares that there is a national situation which is unusual and exigent, that means demanding, and the US Treasury approves, then the Fed can set up special programs that buy debt from or extend loans to business. When the Fed buys government debt, it can simply print money to do so. This is because it is not taking any commercial risk. When it buys business debt, it is taking a commercial risk. In that circumstance, the Treasury can provide a reserve to absorb the possibility of commercial loss. In the case of the current stimulus package, that reserve totals $454 billion. The Fed can create loans to commercial enterprises equaling 10 times the size of the reserve. This means that $454 billion of reserves allotted to the Fed by the US Treasury allows the Fed to create $4.5 trillion of commercial lending. In addition to the $454 billion provided as reserves to the Federal Reserve, the stimulus package also provides $46 billion that goes to specific industries such as airlines. The Fed cannot gear up this other amount and is not involved in the lending program for this funding. The Fed cannot undertake this lending to the commercial sector without the reserves provided to it by the Treasury. The Fed is legally prohibited from lending to bankrupt companies. Should the Fed lend money to businesses on its own, then a failure by business to repay those loans would result in losses to the central bank. This would result in a significant reputational risk for the Fed. Legally, the Fed itself is not allowed to buy debt that is not backed by the government. To be able to lend to businesses, it must set up a special purpose vehicle. The Fed then lends to that special purpose vehicle. The vehicle then buys corporate bonds and makes loans to the private sector. It is our understanding that this is the first time that the US Congress has provided the Fed with such a far-reaching authority to allocate credit. The Fed is now in the uniquely powerful position to support US corporate lending as the crisis unfolds. We believe that the Fed has now gained very powerful instruments to address the problems of these troubled times. As the current crisis has developed, the US corporate debt market has seen rapidly deteriorating liquidity. Should nothing be done, this lack of liquidity would in turn lead to a lack of investment, and in turn, the current crisis would lead to a sustained deep recession. The increase in the Treasury Reserve of $454 billion given to the Federal Reserve allows it to create $4.5 trillion of new commercial loans. This increase will almost double the size of the Fed balance sheet. Never before has the Fed been provided with such strength to stand in the market to support the commercial sector.